Hey, everybody. Welcome to Shally's Alley. You are in the alley, in the zone. It's July 10th. It's Friday. And things could be better, but they could also be a lot worse. So we're good to go. Our guest today, has been asking candidates one question, the same question for 14 years. And that is, what was it really like? Not the recruiter's version, but the candidate's version. The asking the candidate, what was it like to apply for a job? And the data that he's built over the years is not pretty, folks. Resentment is at an all-time high since Kevin's been tracking this information. And this is arguably the worst market for professionals in probably a quarter century. Mm-hmm. AI is making the arms race uglier, not better. So Kevin Grossman, my friend, vice president of the Candy Benchmark, that's Canned E with an E, not Y, Benchmark Research for at a company called Surveil. You may probably not heard of them unless you happen to be in that space. That's not surveillance, that's surveil, like the valley, VALE. He's got the receipts to show the statement that I just made, and we're going to dive into those today. So, Kevin, my friend, welcome to the alley.
Shally, thank you so much. Is the alley safe, Shally? I just want to make
sure.
It
is safe. It is an safe. Alley. Yes, we are surrounded by.
It's a well-lit alley. It's a well-lit alley.
Right. Yes, there's only one way in and out. It's a dead end, and we're about as safe as it's going to get. You know, we're sheltered.
Good.
In this, we can be candid, and speak freely, and all that fun stuff.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm glad that I finally made it on Shally's Alley.
It's been years, man. I think
been a while,
one time I bailed on you, and one time you had to move it, and then your company was acquired.
Yep.
And then your company was acquired. I'm not repeating myself. That actually happened twice.
It did. Yes. Yeah.
And now you're settled in. So super happy to have you on the show.
Yep.
Candidate assessment, as I mentioned, is at an all-time. Candidate resent. I don't know why I said that. Candidate resentment is at an all-time high, and that's the claim, right? Mm-hmm. You've been measuring this for a decade and a half.
Yeah, this is our 15th year. Yes.
Yeah, so that's quite a bit. And the gap is getting uglier. But the question that I have is, I think, just to put it bluntly, why does this matter? Some recruiters think, at least this is what I've been told, some recruiters think that the candidate experience doesn't matter because if you have jobs, people will apply. Now, I can't argue against that because the fact is that if you have jobs, people will apply. I mean, people are looking for work. But I also disagree with it doesn't matter. I just want to hear from you, being behind the scenes in all of this. What really matters about the candidate experience in a quick? There's a lot to it, right? So I don't want you to peel the onion. Just what's the essence of why it matters so much?
So when this program first started, Jerry Crispin, Elaine Orler, and Ed Newman founded what was known as the Talent Board. So we were an educational nonprofit. That the question that they posed to the TA industry and to TA professionals in particular and employers around the world is, does candidate experience matter? And if it does, and if you say it's a priority, which almost all employers do, then let's put your money where your mouth is. Let's get some research data. Let's understand what that journey is like, and not only whether or not their candidates are happy or not. Because I've always argued for many, many, many years now, the only happy candidates are those who get the offer and accept the offer. That's the
Okay,
only.
sure, fair enough. I mean,
That's the
if
only
you
happy.
are if you were a job seeker and you get the job, that's the outcome.
That's the only happy.
Right.
That's the only. Otherwise, did your candidates feel it was positive and fair enough, which is very subjective, we know, to want to engage you again? And that's ultimately what we began to really hone in on year after year, especially in the past 7, 8 years in particular, is the business impact. So again, why does candidate experience matter? So candidates, unlike customers, we always equate those. We like to talk about that sometimes, the parallels. But candidates aren't customers, because customers, true customers, always have a choice.
And they very clearly vote with their dollar frequently and often.
They
You know,
because literally by the very nature of the fact that they're a customer that is buying a service or goods, candidates can be customers too, but it's not the same thing, because candidates don't have all the choices. They can choose to apply or not. They can choose to accept an offer or not. They can choose to withdraw, but most of the choices are the employers at the end of the
Yep.
day. And employers ultimately are, and TA teams far and wide around the world, they are charged with filling roles for their organization. And they're going to say no a hell of a lot of the time.
Well, if you have 200 applicants in one job opening, you're going to say no 199
Well,
times.
you are, but even, yes, I mean, we're in the business of no, unfortunately, when it comes to
Yeah, I
finding
mean,
the people
right.
that we want to fill. That's just the nature of the beast. But there is a potential business impact, though, that I would argue, and
Absolutely.
I have been arguing for a long time, because if you, especially if you're a consumer-based company,
Especially, right.
if you are a consumer-based company, I can choose not to buy your stuff if I feel I was treated unfairly or whatever, for whatever the reason is.
It's perhaps less obvious if you're not consumer based.
It is less obvious, but
it's
it
there,
doesn't. But it does impact referrals.
Yeah,
it can impact referrals,
and it can impact other things. I mean, you could
well,
lose
and
a
brand advocacy
bid or a contract with the wrong,
oh yeah, totally. I mean,
the wrongly placed word.
Shally, I've joked over the years, and I used to use Lockheed Martin as an example. If I'm an engineer at Lockheed Martin and I apply and for a job and go through however far in the recruiting experience I made, and it was a horrible experience, I'm not going to not buy military equipment because I didn't get the job.
But you might have an uncle that decides what contracts they get.
That, and I may have engineering friends that I tell, and two of the three decide I'm not going to apply at Lockheed right now. So
that happens a lot because people do check.
There is a ripple effect, and you've got employer reviews out there. You got Reddit, you've got Glassdoor, you've got Indeed. I mean, there's a lot of places where candidates
double click on that for a second, because that was my argument was for forever. And I think that's going to change today after talking to you. But my argument was always it's like restaurant reviews, right? Restaurants don't need reviews. They can exist without reviews. They make food. People are hungry. If you want to eat, you're going to go to a restaurant. And some people might go to a restaurant because it's there and they're hungry. But also some people may not go back to that restaurant if they had a bad experience.
Yes.
However, there's the reviews on Yelp and all this, and that does affect, it
can affect people's perception.
Absolutely. Yes. So it's the same kind of concept. It's like restaurant reviews, but something's bothering me.
Yeah.
Lately, and that's you've called this. I've experienced this myself, very personally. I don't want to break into tears, but like this has just been it's for myself, my family, my wife, my daughter has been absolute hell. You have called this the worst candidate market in 25 years. I can tell you this is the worst candidate market in 30 years, because the first time I was out looking for a job, it wasn't like this. And so I want to say this is worse than the .com crash. This is worse than the Great Recession. And this is worse than the whole COVID thing. And that's a big claim.
It is.
So it's no longer about restaurant reviews. And this is what I want people to hear. Walk me through the data that backs up what I just.
So we need to unpack that because there's a lot to that.
I know
Right
that's why you're here. I mean, that's why I wanted to talk to you about that.
So there's been plenty of coverage, media, research, BLS numbers, again, that have corroborated each other to say that hiring is at an all-time low. I mean, unemployment's still low, but that we could argue, what does that mean right now? And I just read an article the other day that 1 million people have left left looking for a job in the past year. So just stopped altogether for a variety of different reasons. But for salaried professionals, management, and senior leadership, it is one of the worst markets. Not exactly the same for hourly. It depends on what the industry is.
That's a very good point. My perspective and my
salaried,
but my daughter's is hourly, and she's had a heinous experience.
No, and I'm not denying that that's the case either. So there is this quote unquote, it's been covered a lot, low hire, low fire environment. Healthcare as an industry, some hospitality, some construction, depending on where you're at. I mean, healthcare has carried job creation, continues to, but the past 2 years in particular, we have seen the highest level of resentment. As I said, we measure it. And just to be clear what that means, I want everybody to understand, it comes from one of the key ratings questions we ask candidates. We ask candidates, how likely are you to change your relationship status with us, the employer, based on your experience? And the answers go from, I had a great experience, I will continue to try or apply or refer or be a brand advocate. And the other end of that scale is, I had a horrible experience, I don't want to do anything with you anymore. And that percentage of candidates who answered that question and picked that answer, that's where the resentment rate comes from. The ones who say, I will not do anything with you again. And we've all had, besides, again, talking about the current economy right now, we've all had viscerally, most of us, I would argue, bad experiences applying for jobs, and we've had good experiences too, right? But we remember the bad ones in particular.
It's like with bad food.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it sits there. Like, we just don't forget. But I can remember, as an example, long time ago when I first started working with Elaine Orler, when I came on to the talent board, I was one of the early volunteers. It was very volunteer driven when it was founded. But then as it started to grow, we held a workshop at the Sonos Speaker Company in Santa Barbara, a lovely location, by the way. But anyway, and I remember we had this part of the workshop was listening to the other TA leaders and team members in the room talk about their good and bad experiences. And one woman said that she had researched this job in this company, had applied for this job, took her time. It was one of those where you had to create an account and save it, which I think, again, from a candidate experience perspective, that sucks and needs to go away. But this is what she had to do, and she took all of her time and even tried to network into the company too. And it was applying for a management position or a TA manager position. Finished the application, hit submit, and within 30 seconds received a rejection. Within 30 seconds.
Which is clearly robotic.
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, no human looked at it. That's clear. And this is also that we can talk more about this. That's also what feeds the narrative we're at today with AI. But we'll get to that in a minute too. Anyway, she said then, and nobody can answer a question. Nobody answered her question. Like, why was it so fast? Did anybody actually look at this? And she said, I will never do anything with that company again, ever. Now, not everybody puts their money where their mouth is, but I would argue that could be a significant impact on business and brand if they do if their perception of fairness and is that negative of your organization, they will choose not to apply or refer or be a customer if you're a consumer-based company or be a brand advocate. And our data shows that. In the past 2 years, this year and last year, it's the highest it's ever been globally. In our data. So back to the economy, Shally.
Why? Yeah. So is it the economy? Is it
it's all of the things.
What are the knobs? Yeah. What are the knobs? So name the knobs that are.
So the knob, one of the knobs is just having a bad experience. So and unfortunately, this is where I kind of, in the defense of every employer out there, take AI out of the equation. Take the amount of applications, the number of applications has dramatically increased for a lot of companies that have especially for mid-sized to global enterprise companies, but even smaller companies, you post a job, you get a couple of hundred, if not more, applications. It is huge volumes. Technology and serial applications are part of that. But the reality is that there's a lot. So in defense of employers, if you apply for a job and you are deemed not qualified, again, I'm not arguing whether you think you are or not. Mm-hmm. You get usually that automated message that a recruiter, still mostly, I would argue, it's not AI. We can get into that too. That is scheduling that to go out via the ATS, hopefully during regular business hours, not in the middle of the night or on holidays. That thank you very much for your time. We're not going to pursue you at this moment. That decision's still being made and has to go out to those candidates. But for those who get screened and have some engagement, it can even skew worse. If I'm actually in communication with you and I get screened and or interviewed, and then you ghost me, and then I don't hear back, then you've got two parties that made an investment at the end of the day that now the candidates, it can be even more negative sentiment. So right now it's the experience, but the market is pressing down hard too. And again, I'm not advocating on behalf of this low hire, low fire environment right now. But for
explain that for the uninitiated.
So what I mean, but again, when you read all the economic tea leaves and the labor, and as much as all the data that you can get that we've hoped is as accurate as possible, and I know there's been debates with the BLS data and other data sets, but the reality is that employers are hiring fewer. My own data shows that they're hiring fewer people. It's taking almost over twice as long for salary professionals and above to find jobs that have been on the market, if they stay even that long looking for a job. The past 2+ years, it's been really difficult, again, for that level and above. So the market force, what happens is that if it's taking twice as long, if not longer, to find work, that's already tainting my perception of any employer that I'm applying to, right? So you add that perception of fairness and the negative sentiment to be even worse than it's been. And then I apply for your company, Shally, and maybe I get the automated message. I'm reacting even more negatively to that. And if you ask me to give you my candidate feedback about that, I'm probably going to skew you even lower because the market is also pressing down. So it's a combination of all of those things right now of why we're seeing much higher levels of resentment and extreme negativity around automation. Automation's not new, Shally, right? We've had
automation for a while.
For over 2 decades, we've had ATSs. We have knockout questions, which, by the way, aren't anything. They're not even really tech. They're just questions basic questions we need answered before you could even apply to work here, right? But now today, candidates are equating, if they get disposition shortly after they've applied, it's AI. And most employers, and from the data I've seen, my own data and others, more employers are starting to experiment with AI screening, but most employers still aren't doing that.
Yeah.
And
especially larger enterprises, it's just not happening.
They're not doing it, but the perception of candidates is that they are.
And I get asked that all the time. I teach a job seeking class, 2 job seeking classes. 3 job seeking classes. I just realized I teach 3 different job seeking classes. One of them is about LinkedIn recruiters, specifically like how recruiters use LinkedIn. But I always get the same kind of questions about like, am I being automatically rejected? How do I get around the AI? And I'm like, guys, most of the time you're not.
No, you're not. And
you're not encountering an AI.
But however, it is starting. There are companies that are experimenting.
It's being used, but it's not like everybody's. That's what the news says. Is that everyone's got AI, and then there's all these scammers that are contacting job seekers saying, "I looked at your resume, and it's never going to get through the AI filter. Let me sell you this app or service."
Well, that's a whole nother problem right now.
Yeah, I know it's fraud. It's scam.
Scam and fraud. It's pretty rife right now out there.
Yeah,
I didn't fall for it, but I wanted to play it out. I actually was contacted by a fake recruiter who does really exist out there, but this was a fake person using theirs. their identity, which is a growing problem.
People have contacted candidates pretending to be me, sending my LinkedIn link.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
but anyway, so long story short, it's all of those things, the market forces, as well as kind of an anemic market. I mean, people aren't leaving their jobs, but there's not a lot of net new hiring. There's replacement hiring going on.
So there's a lot more jobs, but I wanted to add a comment to what you said earlier about I think it was like you said 1 million people leaving.
But I read 1 million people left looking for a job. I mean,
I can actually I don't know what percentage of this, but I can tell you that there's a significant component of that 1 million people or whatever that number was that was claimed that are people that, quite frankly, could have and maybe even should have left the market some time ago, but didn't. So there's this effect of like people who lost their retirement or had a major financial setback, and they were of retirement or post-retirement age that returned to work because of that financial impact, that financial setback. They worked for a few years post-COVID, and now they're like, okay, I recovered. I'm going to go back into retirement. So there's a significant component of that. And I can tell you that it's affected me because I've had people on my team and my clients. I've had more messages returning back from my LinkedIn outreach that have said, hey, I'm not in the market anymore. I'm retired. Like that's happening a lot.
Sure.
But
that's
a different story.
It is, but it's still part of the bigger story. I mean, I think we've seen dramatic changes in markets around the world since post-COVID.
What's the number that shocked you?
In what?
In this whole worse than .com, worse than great, like there's all these knobs and all these levers and all these reasons for why it's happening. But
the impact, and I don't have a specific data point.
Candidate dissatisfaction is now at a whatever,
Oh, well, I mean, the candidate resentment we measure is at an all-time high of nearly 20%. So nearly 1 in 5 candidates around the world in our data say that I will never do anything with that employer and that I had applied to.
And that's higher than
higher than it's ever been in our data.
For years, it was what, 10%?
Oh, it's fluctuated, but the average has been closer to between 10 and 15. Now it's near 20.
Near 20.
Yeah. So again, that's almost 1 in 5 candidates across job types, by the way,
and growing.
Right now it's not going down yet. Another population that we all know that's been impacted, it's been written about a lot too, but it's true, is entry level positions that are in salaried level, but entry level
professionals.
Entry level. I mean, that last year and this year, new grad market it's also anemic as well. And it's not, I mean, regardless of what is being played out there in the media or how CEOs are playing it too, it's not AI, but they are hiring fewer though. And maybe some of it is they want to try AI to see, and we've seen the stories.
But Kevin, it's not AI. I mean, your 25 data, what blew me away is that all of the 10 Candy winners use AI technology.
They do, but
so
they're not.
AI is not the villain. I mean,
no, clearly. It's not. And they're not using. And majority of use in the employers we work with has been interview scheduling, chatbot communication.
It's still AI though.
It's not. It is. No. Don't get me wrong. It is, but it's not AI screening though.
Right. It's not the screening part.
It's not the screening, which is being experimented with more now. But it's not that. But if you have, I mean, listen, when I talk to the companies that we work with, and 75% of them are mid-sized to global enterprise. So most of them are bigger. They have bigger teams, even if they've had some attrition.
They're significant employers.
But they are, when they're experiencing a deluge of applications that no humans, and I mean, you're a legend in sourcing and recruiting, Shally. You know that it's today more than ever, it's really difficult to get through hundreds and if not thousands of resumes and applications that come in. So some companies they have to use a screening tools to be able to get to a smaller subset that can then be screened further. I mean, this is part of also what's happening. And I've talked to multiple companies too that are even going back in old school, hard to fill positions. They're just going back to old school sourcing. They're not using any tech. I mean, some tech to find the people, but they're not even looking at all the applications that come in. They can't.
Right. It's volume. Right. Yeah.
They can't. So and what happens, and that's a broken record though that we've heard for even pre this AI era that we're in now. So I don't know. I mean, but companies that aren't using AI to screen are trying to keep the narrative to the candidates. We are humans that are screening you and hiring you. We are the humans doing this. But the AI train's left the station and it ain't coming back. It ain't coming back anytime soon. And it's going to be super messy for the next few years to come. And more companies are going to start employing AI screening tools. In the next few years, we're going to see that. But today, that's one of the biggest negative sentiment that we see in the candidate comments that we receive is that AI is screening me out. Period. That's it. It's too bad because I know, and to your point, what you were saying, there's a lot of people out there that are struggling to find even part-time work, much less full, benefited jobs, right? That are at the salary professional level. But the AI play that we talk a lot about, meaning the AI agents that are supposed to be taking the place of humans doing jobs, it's just companies. It's not panning out yet. Companies are having to rehire people to help manage the AI that they put into place to maybe do some of that work before. That may change in 10 years, 5 to 10 years. Who knows how fast this is all changing. But all of those forces makes it a very painful market right now. And to your point, I would argue for hourly, not as much in our data, but it still impacts all positions though, at the end of the day. But the communication and feedback loops are always the biggest differentiators. And that is something that most employers tell us that they have the systems in place where everybody does get closure. They get the email that says we're not going to pursue you. But yet one of the number one reasons that candidates are so angry besides AI is they feel they were ghosted.
Well, actually, yeah. So, but that's always happened. Okay, the HR black hole and all that stuff, and feeling that you were ghosted. Yeah. So you're saying it doesn't match because your client, employers are saying yes, we have a way.
Because most of the systems are set up that way that you're kicking out message. Now, not everybody, by the way, email deliverability is harder than ever.
Yes,
that's another problem, and the span of compliance around the world is super fragmented. It's getting even harder in the EU now to send anywhere, but in here. So that's part of it is, and also candidates, I would argue, if they feel like they're getting automated messages, they'll still claim that they're being ghosted because they didn't talk to anybody.
It's not a real person, right?
Because they didn't talk to anybody. Yeah. So I totally empathize with that. I get it for sure. And that's kind of where it's at still today, right? I mean, so those are the things. Yeah. Now, for those, I don't know. For those who are getting engagement, who are getting screened, who are getting interviewed, then the biggest negative reaction is if they don't get feedback, if they're ultimately not made an offer. So finalists in particular, semifinalists and finalists, we always argue that they should get feedback at the end of the day. But most employers,
if it's a semifinalist or a finalist, you already spent hours with them. Why would you not?
Well, a lot of companies are adverse to that because of potentially litigation reasons and careful what you say. But anyway, so that's really, but that's kind of, those are the forces that are really impacting. It's a crappy market. There's no other way to say it right now. It's a crappy market.
I wanted to add to that because I think there's a little bit of a double click there, and I was going to post this on the screen.
Sure.
Because you made a really good point about deliverability.
Yeah.
I want to come back to this point of, I don't know, some people call it the AI arms race. But 68% of candidates say that AI was never disclosed to them. And I think that's where some of this resentment and ghosting perception comes from. What I'm trying to say is, if you don't tell the candidate that, if you don't say, hey, Shally, you have a choice. You could either participate in this AI screening interviewer thing, or not participate. You can either talk to a robot or not talk to anybody. Those are your choices. And people talk to the robot, then it's being disclosed and they know about it. The problem is that they're not being told. They get screened out by a robot. They get invited to do a screen with a robot, and they're not told that it's a robot. Sure. And so there's this. So disclosure, I think, is a big part of the problem.
It is.
But going back to the arms race, you got candidates that are using AI to apply, and I know this because I see the apps. I see people emailing me like, use this, magic button and apply to 1,000 jobs at once. And like, I don't care how accurate that is. If I have a button I push that applies me to 1,000 jobs, some of those jobs are bound to. There is not 1,000 jobs in the world that could use my skill set right now. So if they're applying to 1,000 jobs, most of those are, irrelevant. So we got candidates using AI to apply.
We do.
Using AI to screen out. Yep. So here's the ironic thing is, I've seen candidates using AI avatars, robots, to do the interview. So AI is conducting the interview as the interviewee and the interviewer. So it's AI talking to AI. Where does the insanity stop?
Yeah, well, I think that's why I'm seeing employers defaulting to the old-fashioned human interaction, because,
but I mean, seriously, like, the AI is going to interview the AI, and then the AI is going to get offended that they didn't get the job, so they're going to use an AI attorney to do an AI lawsuit, and then the AI lawsuit is going to be AI settled by an AI court, and all of this is going to happen. Meanwhile, people still don't get jobs.
It is an AI escalation right now. What's interesting in our data is that the candidates, I'm convinced that it's underreported in our data, because when we ask the candidates, are you using AI tools, application platforms, etc., to help you with your job search, it's still a much smaller number than I think is the reality. And I think it's because they are concerned about, even though it's anonymous responses in our data, we don't know who they are. I think they're wary of admitting. But I think more candidates are using it. I know one of the things that we ask employers today in our research is that, are you seeing more candidate fraud? And if so, how are you addressing that? And so, like, 45% of the employers this year that are participating say that they're seeing more candidate fraud and are trying to put processes or technology in place to address it. It's really new to a lot of companies. I mean, there's just a lot of, and not just bot fraud or AI fraud either.
It's actually fake people pretending to be someone else.
Well, that, and like, or with like the stories about North Korea trying to infiltrate IT arms of companies by sending their own IT candidates to apply.
Those are not stories.
No, that's real. No, I mean, this is like Tom Clancy stuff, right? Yep. But but this is stuff that's really happening. So I think that's why we're seeing, for not for high volume kind of continuous hiring, but for certain roles, we're getting back to old school human interaction methods, because it's going to this escalation is going to continue. And I don't know at what point, are you going to know that somebody's truly qualified for a job if everybody looks like they're qualified for the job, right? And if humans, we already had enough. We've already had enough
resumes, custom written resume. Yeah.
Well, and we have enough. It was already enough. Modern day neuroscience has shown that the humans struggle with unbiased decision making. We know this to be a fact. Yeah. But some of that gets embedded into the technology, and that's just the same thing again. So I don't know. I mean, maybe in the near future, we'll strip some of that out from the AI tech side, and meaning it's more unbiased. I don't know. But I do.
tell me about the numbers. Leslie, I want to double click into some of the specifics here.
Sure.
You have employers that participate in the survey that use AI.
Mhm.
So actually, as I was saying, the top 10, candy winners last year all had it. So what separates a company using AI well from one that's using AI to make things worse? And what are the numbers? Like, we're talking about, it's a 10% better. Are we talking about it's a, huge difference from 25% resentment to 5% resentment? Like,
it depends on what it is. So this is let me give you this context as I answer this question. So last year I remember seeing, and I don't even know what the origin of the data point was, but somebody posted something in an online group. I think it was even Facebook. Might have been Hung Lee's group. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, saying that, according to X, Y, and Z, 98% of candidates say they prefer an AI screening. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me, because I know in the absence of anything else, if it's between not being engaged and having engagement, of course I'm going to pick the technology, because I'm going to get engaged still, even if I don't like it. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, I think really, ultimately that's so I don't believe that particular number, but in our data, the employers, it's been about 20 to 25% say that they have been using chatbot, conversational AI chatbot, and interview scheduling. And I would argue that I think when that helps smooth out, because interview scheduling has been a long time conundrum for TA teams and hiring managers, and getting that done. That's actually helped to make, I would argue, the process a little bit better, to get things scheduled more readily. 40% of the employers the past 2 years now say that they're starting to use or experiment with AI screening. The jury's out on that, though, because to your point, employers that aren't using AI screening have told me, because we've also recommended it, if you want to try to dispel the myth that you're only using AI in all of your recruiting and hiring, you need to keep telling the candidates this and showing them that humans are screening your. So on the career site, you may see messaging that says humans are screening your resumes, and hopefully they're telling the truth in that regard. They're sending it out in candidate communications, like, thank you very much for your time. Me the recruiter, I'm the one who has screened your resume, and either you're going to move on or you're not, or whatever that case is. Telling them that, trying to keep that transparency. And if you are using AI, to then tell them as well, by the way, because of our extreme volume of applications, we are using an AI screening tool. Just get it out there and let them know it. Don't try to hide it and pretend that like it's humans actually making all these things. But they still say,
that's the disclosure, man. I'm telling you.
It is. And ultimately they're still saying, and as it should be, humans are still making the final decisions. That's the world that we are going to still live in for a while. I don't know what that while means, but we are. And be clear with the candidates, tell them. But so using chatbots, conversational AI, interview scheduling actually helps to reduce resentment a little bit, because it helps that part of the process and getting questions answered. Sometimes, perpetual AI loops that you can get in with a chatbot can be extremely frustrating too. Yeah. It's just like when we
out of this conversation.
Well, it's customer service. Like, I can't stand AI on customer service phone lines now, because I'm like always going zero. Give me a human, because it's very frustrating. So if I'm getting some general questions answered, that's good. If it's frustrating, then that starts to spike resentment again. But that hasn't done it. But the AI screening is going to be definitely contentious for many years to come. Even if the candidates are doing everything they can to use AI to help them get noticed and to get found, that's going to happen no matter what. But I think it's the AI screening ranking, and if there's any of that, just like what we see with the lawsuits that have been out there, including the Workday one.
Yeah.
we're gonna see more of those right now, and I think then and if employers are also
Yeah,
going to be held
shit
responsible,
just got real with that lawsuit.
Well, it is because if employers are going to be held responsible now.
No, I was going to say it got real because all the appeals and dismissals are gone, so it is going to trial, which means no matter what happens. Up until now, there's always been the chance that it never gets to be a law. Yes. But because it's going to trial, it's going to be a law. One way or the other, it will become a law.
Yeah. What we don't have, it's really super fragmented right now, are really good compliance AI guardrails around recruiting and hiring.
Well, no ethical there's
no we have them. We have there's, I mean, in some countries, in some states, there's more.
You can't have compliance without having ethical policies.
Well, yeah, I agree with you on that totally, and that's not going to happen anytime soon in this geopolitical environment. It's just not going to happen right now. Yeah. But maybe hopefully that changes, because that escalation is going to continue to happen, right?
Oh, Aaron asked a pretty good question here. I don't know if you can see that. What are your thoughts around curation ranking? So it's not a rejection decision that is left to the human, but it's sorting or filtering or ranking. Well, maybe not filtering, because that is a decision. Sorry, Aaron, I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining it, but what I'm getting from this is the AI is ranking or scoring, which does actually lead to a rejection.
It can't. Yes, that's true. Gosh, I don't even play an employment lawyer on TV, Aaron, so I can't.
Right. I think he's talking about from the experience point of view.
But I think that, but that's that is what's happening, though. Right. Because of the sheer volume of candidates that many employers are receiving, they cannot not do that now. They have to do something, and that.
So what are they? Yeah, right.
So I mean,
what are the excuses companies come up with when they sit down with you and review their data with you? What are they like? They're like, well,
the good news. Well, I mean, listen, anything that they share with us obviously is confidential. The companies that
but I mean, generally speaking, what are the kinds of excuses you hear? Like, we have this or we have that, or let me explain why that's happening.
I hear what you're saying. I don't think of it as an excuse. I think of it as it's what is a business imperative today, and how I can.
What is the explanation?
Okay. How do I get this work done? And if I open up a rec and I have 1,000 applications, and still the majority of those are not going to be qualified, unfortunately.
Right. And there's an argument that says that the employer doesn't really owe you an explanation. I mean,
no, they don't. And by the way, so I've said for years, I mean, this is a business transaction like any other business transaction, but this is a messy human one.
Right.
And we tend to take things very personally when we get quote unquote rejected. That's why we have fancy names.
Service.
That's why we have fancy names for it, though. Indeed, we have disposition. We have declination. We have regretting. Have you ever heard that before?
I have, regretting? And that's really weird because that's not even really proper English.
But I mean, we're doing this because our human nature is that we don't. It's hard to.
We don't want to call it rejection.
Well, we don't want to call it rejection. We don't want to. No, but if somebody is truly not qualified, I mean, I'll explain it this way.
What's wrong with disqualification? You are disqualified.
Well, I mean, most candidates in our research cannot stand one-way recorded video screening. It's always been the lowest rated form of any screening in our data.
It's like leaving a video voicemail.
Well, there's no engagement for them. They don't talk to anybody. They're just talking to it. They just record their answers. So it's but yet I've talked to employers that swear that it helps them screen and select, right? So I'm telling employers, I'm like, listen, I'm not telling you to change your process or your systems. If it works, that's great. Just know that candidates don't like it. But if it's working for you and you're finding the people that you need to fill those roles, who am I to say that you shouldn't be using it at the end of the day? Anyway, I don't know where the hell I was going with that one, Shally, but to go back to Aaron's question, this is where we're at today. We are using these tools and resources and the screening and the ranking and the matching to help us shortlist to find those individuals that we may want to screen further, that we may want to interview, that we may want to make offers to. When you have, again, hundreds of applications for one job, where maybe in the distant memory you used to get 100 applications for that job, or whatever that number was. We have to use these tools. So I don't know if I even answered the question for Aaron, but what he's saying is happening today.
It is, yeah. No, I think you're definitely onto something. I mean, we have to do something about the volume. We have to do something about the applicants that are not qualified. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that somebody is disqualified. You don't meet the minimum qualifications. I don't see what the fear of lawsuit is. If this job requires that you have a bachelor's degree, and that is the requirement for the job, and it's verified and it's vetted and it's valid, then you don't qualify because you don't have a bachelor's degree. Is a perfectly reasonable explanation. You don't need to fear lawsuits. Nobody's going to sue you for not having a college degree when the job requires it.
Right. Do you know Master Burnett, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Master's been in the space a long time too. And he wrote an article recently that I commented on, because we were touching on candidate experience too, but he was he was making was of the position that companies, so he was advocating for feedback, which we have done for a long time, for finalists in particular.
Good business.
And he's saying, he made the argument that companies aren't giving feedback because they're not because they don't want to give feedback, because they feel like they're opening themselves up to litigation because they didn't make the right choice.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's exactly the case. I mean, I understand
that makes sense. That's a legitimate.
But I mean, it's fair, because you could do all the right things and check all the right boxes and still have a candidate say discrimination, right? I mean, it can still happen, and it does happen. But I can tell you the companies that I've worked with over the years that do give feedback to finalists, or at least offer feedback, because, by the way, not all candidates actually will even take the feedback. If you were told we're no longer going to pursue you, the conversation's kind of over, right?
Yeah, so, but you're right. There are people that go, what do you mean I don't have a college degree? Why do I need a college degree for this
and there are those that do that. But the companies that I've worked with that do give feedback, and they don't give it 100% of the time across job recs, they are more consistent with it over time. They see in our data, a super increase in willingness to refer others from those same candidates when they get
source
feedback.
Of referrals. Okay.
So the candidates who receive feedback are way more likely to continue to refer, even if they don't give the job.
Right.
And so that's a benefit that I would call a business benefit, right? If you if 20 to 40% of your hires depend on referrals, you don't want to lose
increase that by 10%.
From rejected candidates.
Yep. Right. Yeah. Well, from everywhere. Right. But especially rejected candidates. This brings me to something else that I was dying to ask you.
Yeah.
The candidate experience measure includes what teams think they deliver versus what candidates actually experience.
Yeah, there's like a perception gap.
It's right. Exactly. Perception gap. That was where I was going. You finished my sentence. Perfect. What is the biggest perception gap? Where are companies most diluted in that they think and candidate, you know what I'm saying?
The good news is that perception gap has actually decreased over the past 5 to 6 years.
That is great.
It's still there.
It's still there. And when it is, what's the biggest example?
But the biggest thing that we see is when you actually get into screening and interviewing. So screening a candidate, as we defined it as an industry globally, screening is not necessarily interviewing, but interviewing is a form of screening. Right. So, but screening and interviewing, those stages still tend to be the greatest gap. And by the way, there was one major reason why that's the case, are the hiring managers, not the recruiting team. Because when we get it, because what I mean by that is that there's a greater disparity at times, especially for companies that don't try to put in place a structured interview process, making it consistent.
I gotcha.
So, and that includes the hiring managers, because at that point you may be structured where your recruiters are still doing some interviewing for some recs, but the hiring managers at some point, it's their call, right?
Yeah, and the recruiters may be trained on how to do interviews properly, and they're consistent and they're fair. Correct. And they have scorecards, and then it goes to the hiring manager, and that all falls apart.
And that's why it's important, I would argue, that employers have regular hiring manager interview training with their managers, whether they're hiring once a year or multiple times a month. It doesn't matter whatever that frequency is. That's still the greatest gap. And it's because, and I can tell you that the number one reason in our data every single year why candidates withdraw for a negative reason is because their time was disrespected during screening and interview stage, primarily.
Okay.
And
I have a question.
Salary disparity is part of that too, but it's mainly because they feel like it was disrespected, canceled interviews, rescheduled. Hiring managers not showing up. Hiring managers not paying attention to the interview while on their phones. I mean, the list goes on and on.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, ask for a friend. Yeah.
So this happened to me.
This is a safe space, Shally.
That's right. The alley is protected. It is protected.
We're in a safe space.
I was working with a company. I had a client that I worked with for about 6 months, and I say we because I try to I try not to brag about myself. And so when I feel like I say I too much, really what I mean is I discovered that the hiring managers were going into the interview feedback notes from the previous interview. So let's say, Kevin, you're the candidate and you're interviewing at Shally Inc. And at 10 a.m. you interviewed with Patricia. And at 11, you have an interview with Joseph. Joseph goes in to look at Patricia's feedback, sees negative feedback, and cancels the interview that is scheduled at 11. So we were wondering why we were having all of these reschedule problems, according to hiring managers. But really, what I discovered is that these hiring managers were like, I want to see what the other guy said. And based on that, I'm going to decide whether or not I even want to show up to this interview. Yeah. I mean, come on. That is like.
So regardless of, I mean, listen, I understand that it is very disrespectful. I understand today that we have amazing ways to capture interview notes and transcribe them and reference them.
You can't go read,
but you can't. No, you need to. Well, that and you should. I mean, you still need to interview the person.
Right.
The person
I mean, what happened to you and I may have two different opinions about the same candidate.
I mean, you're gonna feel that that's a ripple effect that will continue to grow.
What's the point of having two interviewers if one of them is gonna make the decision for you?
I agree.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean that's definitely an internal thing that needs to be addressed.
Sorry about that. I guess I got it. I took it personally. But
you're right about that.
Roger has a question about the average application time to inform. So the average time to inform a candidate.
Yes.
He's got a question about that. What is that? What should it be?
So the highest rate, I think, if this is what he's asking, the highest rated companies in our research every single year are informing candidates, whether it's, I mean, we're primarily talking about dispositioning, but next steps within 1 to 2 weeks on the average. Okay. 3 to 5 days is like that's the
3 to 5 days is the gold standard.
That's the gold standard, but
a couple of weeks is like the
1
limit.
to 2 weeks. And again, I understand that for more advanced senior positions, management, that can also elongate things a little bit. It can, but if that's happening, so 1 to 2 weeks is like, that's the best practice we recommend.
Okay.
If things are going to take longer, are you letting the candidates know, even if you don't have a lot of information to share with them, so they know that's the case?
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you say, we're experiencing delays, please stand by? What's wrong with that?
Oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would totally. I mean, again, this is all we've advocated for transparency since the beginning of time. So candy time. So I mean, it would be like candy time. Candy time. Tell them, and just listen. And by the way, and if this is a hard to fill position, and that candidate probably is looking at 2, 3 or more different companies anyway already. And you may lose them because of the fact that you're telling them it's taking longer, but you can't not, when I hear there are TA teams out there that take the time every Friday or even every other Friday to check in with their candidates, even if there's nothing to tell them, that's
just
great.
checking. Yeah.
Just like, hey, just wanted to touch base. I mean, I know you're waiting to hear back. I mean, it's those little things go a long way every single year in our data and research. So,
okay. I have one more thing that I want you to, I think you are uniquely positioned to do. Oh, wait, before I do that, we have a question. Email versus phone rejections. Thoughts?
So I think for those who are just deemed not qualified at the point of application, the reality is that most of that's going to be email. I mean, that's unless you have a smaller volume and you can pick up the phone and call every applicant. That's the reality. But for those who actually get screened, and especially those who get interviewed, and especially those that make it to nearly the end, they deserve a phone call. I would always argue that. I think we see that in our data too, and whether they're and by the way, internal candidates always get that love usually, or that's mandated more than external. But I would argue for both. But if it's for those that have invested any time with you and have gone through your process and been interviewed, pick up the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's my ask. Not everybody participates in the survey. You have certain companies that, So, and there could be a lot of reasons. They don't know about it. They don't want to, they don't have the budget. If it costs money, I don't even know, so there's a lot of reasons. Yeah. For the benefit of everybody out there that, is not able to participate in this survey. Would it be possible for you to reach into your body of knowledge and tell me what kind of company has the worst candidate experience? And the purpose of this isn't to pick on an industry or a company, but if you work for one of these types of companies, be forewarned that that type of company has trouble with candidate experience, and maybe they should know to reach out to you. Like, who's the ideal customer for you based on the fact that they probably have a bad candidate experience?
Well, I mean,
is it industry? Is it size? Is there anything?
It's
any pattern.
The ones that we've seen that struggle the most with candidate experience and the business impact are those that are decentralized in structure.
Okay.
That also have very unstructured screening and interview processes along with that decentralization.
So if you're decentralized and have unstructured
they tend to have some, this isn't again.
No, but I mean, if I work for a kind of company like that, I should be on the lookout. Yeah.
On average, you're going to see, there's certain business units that do better than others, but it's not consistent. But that tends to have lower ratings overall when they're decentralized and are completely unstructured in their recruiting process. That's what we see in the data.
But no particular industry?
No, not really, because I mean, this can apply to any industry. The industry that's had the highest resentment, though, I mean, nearing 25 to 30% sometimes the past 5 years has been tech. And that's pretty obvious why. Tech is... We went from talent hoarding in 2021, early 2022 to like shedding ever since. So the tech as an industry continues to really have a lot of candidate resentment baked into the core. Just that seems to be one of the worst, but otherwise it could be across industries. It's just, unstructured processes, decentralized. This maybe...
Okay. Those are good indicators that you probably
can be. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can be. Is there a job function in particular where applicants have a lot of bad experiences? Like, for example, do recruiters experience the worst candidate experience just because they're recruiters?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
I'm just saying I've had a lot of bad experiences.
Well, yeah, no. By the way, in defense of every recruiter out there, as well as recruiters can have bad experience. Hiring managers can have bad experience. So it could be like you can have a hiring manager that's very serious about what they're doing and not have a great TA team to work with, or vice versa, right? So I mean, all of those things can play out. It's not just all about the candidate, but when they're all firing correctly and they're all have more structured processes around the world, if they're hiring around the world, and it's more driven centralized, we tend to see higher ratings and better experience with those companies.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. So exceeded expectations, my friend. I had some tough questions there, and
I appreciate it. It was great. Thanks,
double
Shally.
click into some things that I think are touchy, but we have those conversations here in the alley.
Sure.
Is there something that I should have asked you that you want to share that I didn't ask?
No, I think you did a great job. I mean, I always love talking shop, and I think that we covered we covered everything that I thought we would talk about. So,
is there a place where people should go if they don't have any way to measure candidate experience right now to start learning about it?
Well, of course, they should come to surveil.com/candes, CANDES, to learn more about.
Okay.
Yeah, to learn more about our program.
Kevin's profile, you can link to from there.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, you can find that too. You can download our research for free, which we produce every year based on our benchmarking. So all of that good stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, my friend. It is wonderful to see you. And hopefully we'll have you back with the results from 26.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that soon. Once you have those, let me know.
All right.
And I mean, everybody, thanks so much for attending. Give us your attention. Kevin, thanks for giving us an hour of your day.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourselves, people, and we will see you next week here